for all things nerd. Recorded live from a studio high in the San Diego hills. All the top news in gaming, movies, and more. And now, your host.
All right, what is up, guys? How you doing? Happy Wednesday. What is going on with all of you? Well, things weren't great last week, and they didn't exactly get better this week, as we learned the full extent of the Bungie layoffs. We learned all about Xbox's layoffs and everything with that, and the fallout around PlayStation continues after their announcement that they will cease to sell games on physical discs starting in 2028. So, just all of that. Lovely, right? But there is some good stuff. I did see Jackass Best and last night. I'm going to talk about that. On the flip side, though, apparently we still don't have a production start date for Fast and Furious 11. I don't know how you can squander one of the biggest franchises in the world, worse than Disney with Star Wars. Yet, here's Universal. Hold my beer, right? And then, of course, the Emmy nominations came out today. We're going to talk about all of that. So, that's what's going on. That is what is going on today on July 8th. Hopefully all of you had a great 4th of July weekend, other than, Team USA losing to Belgium. Oh, well. So that's the vibes, right? Anyway, I went to my first Padre game in years on Monday night. That was great. Hadn't been to Petco in quite a while. It was fun to get out and be downtown again. I know this isn't a sports podcast. Talking about me. Sometimes I focus so much on the content, I don't focus on telling you guys about me. Would you guys even want to hang out with me or spend time around me? Obviously, you know my opinions on things and such, but you don't know the real me. And guess what? We're not going any deeper than that. Why don't we get to the news? But first, why don't you head over to nixnerdnews.com? That is the one-stop shop for all things Nick's Nerd News. You can listen to the show right in your browser, or you can take us on the go, because I got links, all the links to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. Right? Also, check out the social media tab. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on Threads. We got a Facebook. And guess what? YouTube's also a social media site. What? Anyway, let's not waste any more time and get straight to the news, shall we? Gotcha, didn't I? Anyway, we learned the full extent of the Bungie layoffs. Literally, after recording, the story came out. But nearly 300 staff were laid off from their Bellevue, Washington headquarters. That's via official records and through a worker adjustment and retraining notification. That was given to the Washington State Employee Security Department, or a WARN notice. 292 staff were let go, with a final separation date set for tomorrow, actually. But we don't know how many people are outside of their Washington office, so it could be more than that nearly 300 in Washington. The third time they've had their staff cut in 3 years. I guess back in 2023 they had over 1,000 employees, and now we're down to with the other layoffs, So down to 400 or so, given what's happening. It's unfortunate. But luckily there's some good news. It's a sliver. It's a sliver of good news. But it looks like Destiny 2 isn't as dead as we all thought, which, again, some good news, not entirely great. Better than nothing. But there is going to be some limited support moving forward. And a farewell gift was given to all players, redeemable on Bungie.net, for a emblem of the game, which is nice, which not a whole lot. But the communications manager, Dylan Gaffner at Bungie, confirmed that they will take Destiny 2 offline every so often for server maintenance, or if anything urgent comes up, fix major issues, game crashes, things like that. And they will bring out fixes. But that's really it. That's better than nothing, but realistically, it is not ideal at all. For once a great storied studio, now crashing down, and that seems to be par of the course lately in gaming in general. A lot of stuff. Speaking of Sony, the brands have been dunking on them. And when I say the brands, I mean all external brands. KFC España tweeted that they're going to be switching to digital chicken. Domino's Pizza UK says that they're switching to digital pizzas only. A lot of other companies just were shitting on them. And honestly, hilarious. It was really fucking funny because this is not going to be a simple thing as they maybe thought. It's turning into a problem for Sony. They're kind of ignoring it. The official Santa Claus Twitter took them off the nice list. GameSir called them out. Just a lot of brands, man. And people were clowning on Sony too for when they made fun of Xbox back in 2013. Remember, like, this is how you share your games, and it was two Sony executives passing a box back and forth to each other. Yeah, well, people are made fun of them now. Like, this is how you... But this is not going down well, even in Japan. Maybe even if Sony's main market is digital games, people are losing choice. That's another thing I didn't even think about. The reason PC players aren't as up in arms about not having physical, and PC's been digital for quite some time now, they have choice. With PlayStation, you are locked to PlayStation. You do not have competition or choice for buying games. That's another factor I didn't even think about. So focused on you not actually owning it, which is the biggest thing. Now you can be susceptible to PlayStation determining the price of a digital game, and only their price. IGN did a poll. Over 90% of their audience doesn't want an all-digital gaming future. Obviously, we know PlayStation probably won't do this. Sony actually also announced that they're going to be reassigning staff and closing their major disc production plant. Does that affect movies now as well? Blu-rays? I'm a little confused. They make over 600,000 discs a day at their factory, with PS5 games for half of that. So they're going to be making optical micro lenses, whatever the fuck that's for. I really do not understand this. There's one bright light. Xbox is putting Halo Campaign Evolved on a physical disc. But again, not ideal. This is not ideal. Even Hideo Kojima put out a tweet of something he had said in the past that kind of ranged true. remember, this might also happen to movies at some point. We have to remember that. But he was at the Il Cinema in Piazza Film Festival in Rome, and Genki found his comments saying, quote, "Since production is ending in 2028, this is about video games, but I grew up with physical media, so I find it really sad. Currently, I've been buying up a lot of Blu-rays, such as various movies and CDs too," unquote. So that's very, very interesting. But there was, like I said, there was an old tweet from him that said, quote, "There are companies that own these servers and let you turn the tap for a monthly fee. However, with nations, politics, and various ways of thinking, one naturally has to consider the possibility that if there is a change, the data inside will stop being distributed. And if that happens, you won't be able to watch or play the movies and games you like. That's what is frightening. So what is happening to video games in 2028 might also happen to movies. I'd like everyone to keep that in mind," unquote. He also said something about, like, you don't own anything, right? These are situations we really need to think about, and I don't think enough people do. A new petition has been signed by over 100,000 people asking to keep discs. Some retailers are fighting back. I don't know if that petition will actually do anything, realistically, but everyone needs to step back and think about this before we just blindly let it happen. PlayStation Plus subscriptions are being canceled en masse by people as their form of protest. We have to vote with our wallets. Not enough people do in the gaming world. So, analysts, though, don't think this will matter. We'll see if people actually, a good enough amount do that, right? So, Dr. Serkan Toto, the CEO of Japanese game industry consultancy firm Kantan, said that even if 500,000 people did it, it wouldn't matter. Saying, quote, "I sympathize with physical media fans, but Sony will not reverse this decision. They, of course, knew what the online reaction would look like, and now they wait for the storm to pass. Sony has over 120 million active PlayStation users. Around 50 million subscribe to PlayStation Plus. As a thought experiment, let's say 500,000 cancel in protest. That would be just 1% of that business gone. Of course, not enough to Sony to start rethinking. Digital is just too lucrative," unquote. It's just, Sony cares about money, realistically, and Sony's always been the villain. I think people forget that sometimes, that Sony likes to be the bully in all of these situations. There's never been a time where Sony has been the good guy, per se. The memes about all the major companies like stabbing themselves right now is also kind of funny. But it's just unfortunate with what's going on, and we're going to talk about another thing later with Sony. But people need to understand this is not going to end well for all of us. And unfortunately, it might be too late. The Nintendo company has announced that they are going to work with the Pokemon company to take measures in regard to card scalping, which I think has started to die off. I don't know. I don't see memes about it anymore. So, especially with the 30th anniversary sets coming up and merchandise and everything like that, it's just, things are not going well in the Pokemon world. But the Pokemon Company has issued a statement. Nintendo president Shuntaro Furukawa asked during a shareholder AGM, said that, quote, "With respect to the Pokemon trading card offered by the Pokemon Company, which is an equity method subsidiary of Nintendo, we are aware of instances where limited quantity cards are purchased in large volume, leading to high-priced reselling in the market. In response, the Pokemon Company is taking various measures, including made-to-order sales and agreements with marketplace operators for online priority drawings for certain products. I understand the Pokemon Company also plans to use account verification method that utilizes My Number cards," which, unquote. The My Number cards are Japan's government-issued IDs. He also said, quote, Nintendo also communicates with the Pokemon Company as needed to discuss appropriate ways to deliver products to consumers. We believe that the Pokemon Company will continue to take measures to respond to this issue, unquote. Which I really hope something gets figured out, because scalping has ruined it so much. And we get to see more and more of the 30th anniversary stuff, and I really do not want to overpay for that stuff. But here we are. Here we are. 30-year-old franchise. And Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, the new Marvel fighting game from Arc System Works, has announced that the game has been blocked in 132 countries due to the PSN requirements for the game. Here's another reason why gaming is getting worse, which, especially on a fighting game, doesn't make sense. The full list includes countries like Afghanistan, Haiti, Serbia, Egypt, many more. No explicit reason has been announced, but these are also countries where PlayStation Network is unavailable. Mind you, there's only like 200-something countries in the world on this planet, and about more than half of them aren't able to play these games. Sorry, there's not even 200. There's 195 official recognized countries, and 130 of them can't play. What? I'm really, really thrown by this. What are you doing, PlayStation? You only care about Europe and Americas? So, this is not the first time Sony's done this, but if you're hoping to play that game, just make sure you're in a country that has it. And now we get to Xbox. Finally, everything has been addressed. There's no more rumors about what studios are closing, what studios are not, who's going where. I will say this. There's one bright light in this as well. None of the studios are closing as of right now. Most of the ones that they are offloading have found new homes, and one of them is in the process. So Microsoft announced that 3,200 staff will lose their jobs across all Xbox everywhere. 1,600 of those happened on Monday. So we knew this was coming. And Asha Sharma, CEO of Xbox, put out a letter that essentially laid everything out, and it was very transparent. I will give Asha credit for this. They have been very, very transparent in how they've been approaching things as of late, and I think that's all we can ask for. They really need to take advantage of this Sony thing and put a disk drive on the next Xbox. But this was in a message that was sent out to the entire Xbox team globally from Asha, saying, quote, "Team, we are beginning the most significant restructure in Xbox history. After careful consideration, I've made the difficult decision to reduce our team by approximately 3,200 throughout fiscal year 27. This will include approximately 1,600 role eliminations today, and in addition, 4 studios will leave Xbox to new management. I recognize that a year-long restructuring creates additional challenges. Unfortunately, it is not possible to make all the necessary changes in a single day, and I wanted to be direct about the scale. I know this is painful. These changes will directly affect people who have poured their creativity into building Xbox. Many joined us through acquisitions, while others were recruited here or sought us out because they loved this industry and loved Xbox. Today's decisions do not reflect their talent or dedication. Our business today is not healthy. We are operating at margins that are 3 to 10 times lower than comparable platform and publishing businesses. We entered Gen 9 with a smaller install base and a higher cost structure. To grow, we bet on Game Pass, multi-platform, and a broader portfolio of content. While those businesses have created meaningful value, they did not grow at the pace we expected. As that happened, our core business weakened, and we added more teams, more investment, and more time, hoping for a better outcome. And now the industry is facing the most severe hardware crisis in its history. We must reset Xbox. First, we will reset our content portfolio. Since 2018, we have aggressively expanded our studio portfolio while the number of games created each month across the industry now outpaces the last 10 years combined. We now find ourselves competing not only with the largest publishers but also with smaller independent studios. It is neither possible nor desirable to own every great independent studio. We have also learned that we are not the best home for every type of studio. In a typical year, we lost 64 cents for every dollar we invested. As we reset Xbox, we will help independent creators succeed by providing open development tools and audiences to realize their vision. Compulsion Games and Double Fine Productions will return to management and transition to independent studios with their IP, catalog, and runaway for their next games. Ninja Theory and Undead Labs have entered terms to join new ownership with funding to complete and grow Senua and State of Decay 3. In France, Arcane's management is beginning required consultation with its Works Council to review potential strategic options. We're also making reductions across other units and in some cases shifting investment to focus on higher priority projects. These changes vary in size across Activision, Bethesda ZeniMax, Blizzard, King, Mojang, and Xbox Game Studios. None of our first-party publicly announced games or projects are being canceled as part of these reductions. In addition, Mojang and King will now report directly to me. These two studios have increasingly become platforms and are our largest bi-monthly active players. They bring critical geographic, demographic, and differentiation to Xbox. Second, we will reset our platform. We know that great technology gets better when it gets simpler, not bigger. Today, in some parts of the company, work passes through as many as 14 layers of management. Our platform teams are 40% larger than they were at the start of this generation, even as our player base and playtime have declined. That complexity has slowed decisions, blurred accountability, and made it harder to deliver for players. As we reset Xbox, we will simplify. We will reduce management layers to no more than 5, and where possible, 3. We will deliver success through a flatter organization that is built around makers, individual contributors focused on building, player coaches, leaders who remain deeply involved in the work while developing their teams, and directly responsible individuals who own key decisions and outcomes. And we will streamline how we work across our tools with a clearer code base, shared services, and 50% reduced vendor spend. Third, we are resetting how we operate. As Xbox grew our headcount, we became more fragmented. Teams, studios, and functions often operate independently, and it became harder to work towards a shared goal, make the right trade-offs, and get things done. For the first time, we are establishing a chief operating officer with end-to-end P&L responsibility across content, hardware, platform, and services. Helen Chang has been promoted to this role and will report directly to me. Over nearly 2 decades at Xbox, Helen has helped build some of our most important businesses, from Xbox Live to leading Mojang and the Minecraft franchise. She will bring our businesses together under one operating model, making sure we make clear investment decisions, learn from our successes and failures, and hold ourselves accountable for results. Thank you, Dave McCarthy, who is retiring after 7 years with Xbox. Dave has played a defining role in building the platform that millions of players rely on every day, and has been a trusted partner through many of the biggest moments in Xbox's history. We wish him all the best. These changes are about a bigger future for Xbox, not a smaller one. The next decade of gaming will be larger, more global, and more creative than anything we've seen before. This year we'll invest in as much in Xbox as we ever have, but we'll invest with greater focus, greater discipline, and greater clarity, all in service of making Xbox where the world plays and creates. I want Xbox to be one of the few companies that entertains more than 1 billion people each day and gives everyone the opportunity to create and connect. I know we can achieve this goal. Xbox has many of the most beloved franchises in entertainment history, talented studios around the world, and we will return to grow in 2027. History is full of companies that mistake longevity for inevitability. We will not be one of them. Asha. Unquote. This is a message that should have been delivered via video, personally, I think. But at the same time, a letter to all staff is best. Corpo speak like this is obviously sugarcoating it as much as humanly possible. It's not ideal. It's never good when anyone loses their jobs. But like I said, the bright light in this is that Compulsion Games gets to go independent and keep their IPs. We also see that Double Fine gets to go independent again and keep their IPs. That means they get to keep Psychonauts for themselves. Undead Labs with State of Decay 3, we don't know who their new owner is yet. We don't know who Senua's, Ninja Theory's new owner is yet. And then Arcane, more than likely, may find an owner or something. We don't know. That's handled differently in France. Arcane is based in France. There's a lot of other rumors still flying around, and I know it's not ideal that we don't know everything. We don't know if Arcane will close. We don't know if they will get bought out, if they'll go independent. That means for Blade, again, we have no idea. We haven't heard anything about that game in quite some time. There's rumors that it's delayed or over budget. I hope Compulsion gets to make another South of Midnight. That would be amazing. It looks like State of Decay 3 will not have to go to Game Pass anymore. Is not expected to after they sell them to their new ownership, which is very interesting. It looks like Bethesda was hit quite hard, and there was a company letter to staff from Bethesda as well. But it's very interesting. Bethesda boss Jill Braff said that, quote, "To be successful in the future, we need to change course. We must strengthen our business, return to sustainable growth, and ensure we can continue investing in our franchises and our players. I know that doesn't make a day like today any easier," unquote. I heard id got gutted. I've heard the team behind Elder Scrolls Online was practically obliterated. But Jill Braff's message also said, quote, "To best position Bethesda for future growth, we are shifting from a planning model primarily centered on what's next for each independent studio to one that focuses on our strongest franchises and determining the content roadmap that best serves our players and Bethesda as a whole. From there, we'll align the right talent, technology, and resources across the organization to deliver on those priorities," unquote. So, I guess they're going to focus on the Elder Scrolls and Fallout, and we don't know what's going to go on with some of the other things. id, again, might have lost so many people that it might just become a support studio, which is unfortunate because Doom and Quake are left in the wayside. Granted, Doom's kind of hit, I think Doom hit like a conclusion, right? And speaking of Fallout, it came out today that Obsidian is working on the next Fallout game. Does that mean we're getting New Vegas 2? That's what a lot of people think, because Avowed was potentially getting a sequel. That's been scrapped, as Microsoft and Xbox want Obsidian to make the next Fallout. I don't think that will be Fallout 5, personally. I think that will stick with Bethesda. Bethesda needs to focus on the Elder Scrolls 6, which is apparently still 2 years away. That's insane. That game was announced 8 years ago. 8 years ago. Bloomberg reporter Jason Schreier, the king of scoops, that like I said, id was gutted. ZeniMax Online Studios gutted. And the Elder Scrolls is going to be a focus. But it looks like it's still years away. We got a small update in 2026. But I really don't understand what's going on with this game. How it's still a long way off. But yeah, 2 years still. 2 years. That's ridiculous. There's rumors that Microsoft might give Halo to Activision, who is more is better, positioned to release a game more often. Yes, I think Halo needs to be released more often. I think it needs to be innovated on more. Microsoft is also and Xbox are planning to make more exclusives again to give people like buy an Xbox because of its exclusives, not because of whatever. We already know Gears of War E-Day and Clockwork Revolution are going to be exclusive. Oh God, what's going to happen in Exile in a year after that game comes out? Again, Jason Schreier says they want to make more games exclusive. However, big multiplayer games will be multi-platform still. Just keep Halo. Keep Halo, please. For the love of God, make Halo exclusive and keep it exclusive. Will we get remasters of previous games, things like that? It's unfortunate that 1,600 people are now without a job, and another 1,600 not far out. A lot of games were canceled that were already in the works at Obsidian and other studios. Game Pass is not working the way they thought it was. We also learned more about the closure of IO Interactive and their layoffs. The game they were working on was funded by Xbox in cash. However, that's not happening anymore. So it essentially was Xbox who was funding their new game. They're going to keep the IP. It was codenamed Project Dragon. But with Xbox's reset, that was hurt by it. In a new Wall Street Journal article that came after this, we learned that Microsoft had wanted Game Pass subscriptions to be around 77 million by 2026. However, it only has about 30 million. So it's still making a shit ton of money off it. They're just not at the level they wanted. We learned in the FTC lawsuit that Microsoft wanted 100 million by 2030. That's practically impossible at this point. We know about the layoffs, and this is why Asha said that, the industry is not healthy, Xbox is not healthy, Game Pass isn't working the way they wanted. Prices, of course, went up. They lost millions of subscribers. But we do know that Microsoft had 34 million subscribers in February of 2024, which, if they're back down to 30, that means they didn't grow anything in 2025 and lost a shit ton after the price hike last year as well. It is bringing in several $1 billion a year in revenue, though. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with Game Pass moving forward and with them losing studios and things like that. But this last bit of Xbox news, like I said, it's fucking awful. This is sad. They bought too many studios. They were not too big to fail, which I'm eating my words because I'm not going to lie. I praised a lot of these things back when they happened. I questioned some of them. You could pull the tape, though. I could be wrong. I could be misremembering. I did look on a lot of these with hope. And obviously, looking back, I realized I was wrong and probably should have been wrong and listened to other people. That's on me. I'll own that. But this is just, it's not a good look. It's not a good thing. It's fucking awful. We've been months now that I start every story with layoffs. The industry is heading potentially for a crash. And RAM prices and AI and everything like that are not helping it. PlayStation doing digital only, not helping it. We also learned that id Software had been pitching new games, even them taking the reins for Perfect Dark, a John Wick type game, and more before the studio was ultimately gutted. With GamesBeat reporting that 92 of their 180 full-time employees were laid off at id alone. That's insane. So I don't know what they do there. it does everything move to machine games? I don't understand what happens in that instance. So I am really, really confused by what Xbox is doing. I understand what they're doing, but at the same time, it's like, this is really fucking shitty. And then the Elder Scrolls Online team has lost pretty much half of their studio, if a Kotaku report is to be believed. But the Elder Scrolls Online will probably get reevaluated as well. I wonder how many people play that game, to be honest. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying MMO games are not, they're not wow, right? So that's what's going on with Xbox. Again, thankfully, a lot of these studios aren't necessarily closing, but a lot of people lost their jobs and will continue to do so. It's very unfortunate. The Nintendo Switch 2 is getting reworked in Europe already. And it has to do with European regulations. It will be released later this year. It will be a little bit heavier than the current console, but it will come with user replaceable batteries. So, Nikkei, the Japanese newspaper, said that Nintendo will make the Switch on Switch 2 and different accessories due to European Union legislation that requires users to be able to replace batteries and equipment. But it looks like this will affect all models moving forward, sold from this fall onwards. But we'll have a small replaceable battery, and in the Joy-Con 2 controllers as well. This will also affect retro controllers starting in 2027. But this will not be released anywhere else. And because of this, they're actually not going to be selling the Nintendo Switch, the original Nintendo Switch, starting next year because of this as well. But because the new Switch 2 is coming out, they're ending sales of the original Switch starting February next year. So if you live in Europe and you don't have the original Switch, you better get it now. And if you don't have a Switch 2, you might want to wait for the new one later in the year. Unless the older models, quote-unquote, go on sale because of it. Or maybe they won't be allowed to be sold. Who knows? I've had similar things with my company where there was a regulation put in place for the Department of Energy nationwide, and all new products had to meet the requirement, but all previous versions that were still in stock could be sold through. I don't know if that applies in Europe. But there's probably going to be a run on both. Mecha Chameleon has taken over the gaming world with 15 million in sales and collaboration teases with famous gamers and stars on the way. Mecha Chameleon, 15 million in sales, units sold. And it's been out on Steam for less than a month. And it was made by 2 people in 2 months. Didn't have any marketing team or anything like that. Those dudes are wealthy now. But yeah, literally, it's only going to be out a month by Friday. But props to them, dude. John Romero, the man who helped create Doom, is given a shout out to id Software, and saying they had done a great legacy with the studio he helped found. He said, quote, "I'm sorry for everyone at id Software affected by these layoffs. I know what it feels like to leave id while id goes on. It's a strange and painful thing to step away from a place that holds so much of your work, friendships, and history. The people at id have done a great job moving that legacy forward. Doom, Quake, and Wolfenstein are not easy names to carry on, especially in today's industry. The last few games showed real care, skill, and respect for what those worlds mean to people. A note on digital preservation. id's history is critically important to the history of games. I've preserved id's complete early history from our start at soft disk through to August 6th, 1996, including materials and assets that, as far as I know, id itself no longer has. I hope someone is doing the same for the company's ongoing legacy, the work, code, assets, stories, and the people behind them. I'm thinking of everyone at id today and everyone else affected by yesterday's layoffs. Romero Games was there a year ago. I know how devastating it is, and my heart's with all of you, unquote. John Romero had a game at his studio that Microsoft had pulled funding for last year, and that affected things as well. And it's unfortunate, but who knows? Just shit all around. I do want to talk about PlayStation put out their first tweet this week after announcing the physical game cancellation, and it was actually one of the longest stretches of time between their official PlayStation Twitter account put out tweets, and it got mogged. They put out a tweet about their new Bluetooth fight stick, and the replies to it were out of control. Obviously, people were hoping for a U-turn. That didn't happen. One of the best responses, though, was a Twitter user that went by Nick Tech, saying, quote, "Sony, there's something you should address," and it's a unquote, and it's a picture of an elephant in a room where it says "address me." The replies were doing numbers exponentially better than PlayStation's own tweet, talking about their wireless fight stick. And we'll end today's gaming news with some good news for Ubisoft for once. It looks like Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced is doing very well for them. Pre-orders on Steam alone have outpaced Skull and Bones' lifetime sales, per an analyst. They're 5.39 times higher than those for Shadows. Also good news. I don't know why people hate on that game. That game's amazing. This is via Reese Elliott of Alinea Analytics. That means it's the pre-orders. The game is out now today. Pre-orders beat lifetime sales of Skull and Bones, which was technically originally supposed to be a spin-off of Black Flag, and we didn't actually get that. Yeah, Ubisoft needed this, and I think it will help them, and hopefully this helps a lot. But Ubisoft needed a win, and they might have gotten it. Anyway, that's it for gaming. Let's head on up the 5 freeway and see what's going on in Hollywood, shall we? All right. Christopher Nolan is calling out safe movies. That's what the problem is. I don't disagree with him. Yet he chose modern linguistics for the Odyssey, and he thinks it might bite him in the ass. So who's being safe there? But no, he said in a interview with the New York Times, he said, quote, "If you're really interested in movies and the history of movies, the one thing you see absolutely is that you have to take risks to succeed. The biggest risk of all is to play it safe," unquote. He's not wrong. Hollywood has always been at its best when it takes risks. He also said, quote, "That's what consistently in the mainstream movies doesn't work. The audience is looking for something new," unquote. I agree with him wholeheartedly. Completely. I agree. You have to do it. Yes, there's some risks that have been taken by Marvel, by DC. They haven't panned out. That's different. Hollywood studios, though, they don't take risks on smaller mid-budget movies anymore. And they need to again. Luckily, some movies that are lower in budget have been successful as of late as well, though. Speaking of playing it safe or taking risks, the former casting director for James Bond, who cast Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan, and Daniel Craig, has spoken out about what Amazon MGM should do next, saying that they should not go with the actors that have been pitched as the perfect template. So Debbie McWilliams, who, like I said, cast Pierce Brosnan, Timothy Dalton, and Daniel Craig, has spoken out, and who's now retired, spoke with The Independent, and she said, "It's absolutely essential that he retains a total enigma. I don't want to see any of the main frontrunners as Bond because we now know so much about them. We want to know as little about them personally as possible because that's what spies are. We don't need to know where he goes shopping or who his parents are or where he lives. We never want to see him at home, and a vital element of the whole thing is his job description. He's licensed to kill, and we have to believe that he can do that. If you don't, then you've lost the audience," unquote. Which, that's mostly true for when she picked the previous 3 Bonds. I really don't know of anything about Timothy Dalton before the Bonds. You didn't really see Pierce Brosnan in anything before 95's GoldenEye. Yes, he was in some things in the 80s, but he wasn't huge. And Daniel Craig, I think, really was practically a nobody before Casino Royale, if I remember properly, as well. While I think Jacob Elordi or Callum Turner would have been good, I agree with Debbie here that pick someone new. Let them shine. People didn't like Daniel Craig. Look at how he turned out. People didn't like Pierce Brosnan. Look how that turned out. Pick someone new. In my ever quest against AI, Netflix has announced a new reality show that will feature the voice of Gene Wilder in a Willy Wonka reality competition show using an AI recreation of Gene's voice. I don't care if the family gave permission. I know they need it. But this is sad. There's plenty of other people you could have had to play Willy Wonka or voice Willy Wonka in this. It did not need to be Gene. It is a 9-episode competition series that will be debut on Netflix in September. It will have 12 people competing in a contest where they will be inside of Wonka's chocolate factory, and the challenges they will face will test their physical, mental, and moral strength to win a life-changing prize. Yeah, they 11 Labs, which is the company that does a lot of voiceover AI voice work, did get consent from Wilder's estate, but I still don't feel okay with this. I think a lot of people might not either. It didn't really sound like him either completely when you watch the trailer. This is getting out of hand. Could have hired Johnny Depp or Timothy Chalamet. Come on. The Rock confirms that Moana 3 is in the works, and Variety did back it up. Hot on the heels of the live action about to be released version. And we've also learned that Hollywood may be shifting to video games away from superheroes. The co-writer of the upcoming The Batman 2, Mattson Tomlin, along with Matt Reeves, when asked on social media if he was writing the Mega Man movie, but said that while he isn't, he did say, quote, "Don't know if it has been canceled or not, but it's definitely not on my dance card anymore. I wrote a fun set of drafts, and I believe another writer came on some years later. Hope it gets made. There was a really emotional and surprising way in. Hollywood is sort of making a shift from being comic book obsessed to video game obsessed, so I wouldn't be surprised if it sees the light of day in some form, but after so much time gone by, it's unlikely I'll have anything to do with it," unquote. Now that's interesting. I mean, obviously that we've seen an uptick in video game adaptations, and they're getting better than what they used to be. We all know the Yule Bowl movies. And as I sit here and think about this, and how studios are changing and adapting more to the volume and things like that and stagecraft, all these new productions use Unreal Engine. And I'm wondering if a lot of these people being laid off in gaming could help fuel a digital renaissance in Hollywood. I'm going to think about that. And I'm going to posit on that more. I think that this is how we fix things. Maybe get more video game movies made by having people from the video game industry make movies. Tomlin also went on to add that, saying, in response to all this, saying, quote, "My point of view also born out of the fact that I am getting at least 5 times more offers for video game adaptations than comic book adaptations this year," unquote. We already know we're getting a new Resident Evil movie. Street Fighter's coming in October. Angry Birds Movie 3 is coming. Sonic the Hedgehog 4 is coming. The Legends of Zelda next year. Minecraft's getting a sequel. Helldivers is getting a movie. Then Elden Ring movie. Call of Duty movie. Battlefield movie. Donkey Kong might be getting a movie. A third Super Mario Brothers movie. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is getting a movie. Horizon Zero Dawn is getting a movie or a show. Gears of War is getting a movie. Death Stranding is getting a movie. Metal Gear Solid is still in development. Maybe the future of Hollywood is not superheroes. We'll see. We will see. Danny McBride also revealed he's written a G.I. Joe movie. Maybe it's also in old 60s cartoons. Speaking on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, Danny McBride had opened up about a G.I. Joe movie that he has written. Saying, quote, "It follows Duke and a group of other Joes. There's a town called Springfield that is secretly all Cobra. This is where our film takes place," unquote. But he did offer up that it would not be a comedy, which makes sense. He's written some very good, serious movies. So he did say that Paramount was happy with the script. They're trying to find stars and are hoping to start shooting next year. It looks like they won't do the team up with Transformers that was teased. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about DC for a second here. Mr. Terrific is getting a TV show, which I'm totally stoked on. That is a good move. Mr. Terrific was a great part of Superman last year. Supergirl has made it past the $100 million box office mark for the global box office in its second weekend, which it's not going to do well against the Odyssey this weekend, I'll say that. But yeah, it's made just over $100 million and did not do well on its second weekend. A 74% drop, which is massive. So, not as bad as some other movies, but it's up there. Especially on a holiday weekend. And it was in 4th place. Minions and Monsters took first. Toy Story 5 took second. Young Washington took third. So, it's unfortunate. However, it looks like DC might have known about this from the start. A new report has come out that DC knew the movie would be bad as early as the fall of last year. And 2 different versions of the movie were shown to test audiences, which could indicate why Doug Gillespie has been a little confrontational when asked about the movie and some choices. And now that the whole comment about the music choice makes a lot more sense. Last week I talked about how when asked about that mic drop song, he's like, no, that was James Gunn. Well, according to a new report from the Hollywood Reporter, we've learned from numerous sources that creative differences began late last year after test audience scores were in the 70s, which not great, and they ended up not being creatively aligned. So I guess after filming concluded, they knew there were issues. There was a Gillespie cut and a studio cut of the movie. 4 test screenings happened in December, February, and March with low scores. They had, like I said, there was a director's cut and a studio cut, and it looks like audiences liked the studio cut more. And even then, that mic drop song was changed at the last minute. It was going to be a different song, but this is, an anonymous filmmaker told the Hollywood Reporter, quote, "It happens more than you think, but it's not normal. If a studio is going to put money into the test process, it means they feel strongly about certain things," unquote. So it looks like there were some other interesting things that happened, and it could explain why that movie felt a little weird. They were going to have Girls Just Want to Have Fun in that moment, but then changed to the middle, which I don't think Girls Just Want to Have Fun would have worked either. But unfortunately, Supergirl is not taking off the way that its super cousin did. We have a release date finally for the Avatar: The Last Airbender movie that was leaked in its entirety earlier this year. That even the creator of Avatar was like, "That's not cool, man," which I would agree if you're the creator. It will drop on Paramount Plus on July 25th, if you're looking forward to that. The breakout star of Obsession, Indy Navarrete, has confirmed that she's bet with Marvel Studios and X-Men director Jake Schreier, meaning she may be joining the MCU as a mutant. The X-Men movie is not expected until after Secret Wars, so 2028 at the earliest, with Jake Schreier directing. He, of course, directed Thunderbolts. We'll see ultimately what happens and if she joins the MCU as a mutant. Anyway, Vin Diesel created a stir recently, posting a video from what appeared to be him on set making a movie, and specifically in costume as Dominic Toretto, which that's just a white t-shirt and jeans. Is that really a costume? However, he was standing in front of the iconic Dodge Charger, saying production was underway, which we all assumed would be Fast Forever. However, the rap is saying otherwise. I don't understand why this movie hasn't been made yet. But Diesel said on Instagram, said, quote, "I'm on set, people are grinding, incredible crews are working. I wanted to take a second to say thank you. You guys are the best audience in the world, best fans in the world. You've been patient to the industry, you've been patient to the studio, and you've been patient with me. Over the past 3.5 years, we've been grinding to try and make the most amazing finale. I can feel your support, and that means the world to me. So let me get back to this filming and just know that I hope to make you all proud," unquote. Well, guess what? It was not for a movie, but it was for a promo for the U.S. versus Belgium game in the World Cup. Universal Studios has not said anything. This movie is supposed to come out in 2028. It should have been out already. I don't know how you fumble one of the most prosperous franchises in Hollywood. How do you do that? How do you do that? Especially with the travesty that Fast X was, Fast 10. There was good parts of that movie, and there was real shit parts of that movie. And you can't end that franchise like the way with Fast X. You have to make another one. You cannot end on that cliffhanger and leave people satisfied. They should be in full speed ahead, especially with them pushing their Fast and Furious roller coaster at Universal Studios Hollywood, and then building another version of it in Universal Studios Florida or Orlando. What are you doing, Universal? Get on it. Anyway, moving on. We got our second trailer for Dune Part 3 today, and it is upping the ante. It's showing places that are not Arrakis, which is good. It shows a lot of new characters, which are good. A lot of returning characters that are good. It shows Paul and Chani fighting, which is a little different from from the books. We also got to see more of the princess, Aurelian, right? Am I saying, did I get that right? So, in Duncan, Idaho, Lisan al-Gaib is maybe not the Lisan al-Gaib that we all thought he was. I cannot wait for Dune Part 3 when it comes out in December. Go watch that trailer. And then, before we wrap up, two more things. The Emmy nominations came out today, and some people are saying the Stranger Things was snubbed. I don't think that season was worthy of Emmys. Let's not kid ourselves. There was good stuff. I don't know about that. HBO has received a record-breaking 122 nominations. As always, HBO is still the reigning champ when it comes to Emmy nominations. With The Pit and Hacks getting more than 50 of them. Euphoria, DTF St. Louis, Task, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms also got a good chunk. Apple TV was a major contender, and but some other shows were snubbed. Let's talk about the lead actor in drama was Sterling K. Brown, Gary Oldman, Mark Ruffalo, Rufus Sewell, and Noah Wiley. Lead actress in drama, Carrie Coon, Chase Infinity, Kerry Russell, Rhea Seehorn, and Zendaya. Oh, good for Chase Infinity, dude. She's on a meteoric rise after one battle after another. Some people felt that Sydney Sweeney was snubbed in that category. Outstanding supporting actor in drama, Patrick Ball, Billy Crudup, Sean Hatosi, Garen Howell, Jack Loudon, Tom Pelfrey, and Carlos Manuel Vesga. Supporting actress in drama was Taylor Dearden, Fiona Dourif, Allison Janney, Catherine Lanaza, Sepida Moafi, Julianne Nicholson, and Carolyn Widra. The Pit is taking over all of these categories, by the way. Directing for drama, Sally Richardson Whitfield, The Gilded Age, Hanel M. Culpepper, Paradise, Noah Wiley, The Pit, Vince Gilligan, Pluribus, Saul Metzstein, Slow Horses, Sally Richardson Whitfield, Task. You can be nominated twice like that? That's insane. Writing for drama, Peter Ackerman and Deborah Kahn for The Diplomat, Kristen Pierre Gaifman and R. Scott Gemmell, The Pit, Valerie True, The Pit, Vince Gilligan, Pluribus, Will Smith, Slow Horses, Brad Inglesby, Task. I don't think it's that Will Smith. Outstanding drama series, The Diplomat, The Gilded Age, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Paradise, The Pit, Pluribus, Slow Horses, Your Friends and Neighbors. Lead actor in comedy series, Yahya Abdul-Mateen for Wonder Man, hell yeah. Steve Carell for Rooster, also a hell yeah. Matthew Rhys, Jason Segel, and Martin Short. Lead actress in comedy, Quinta Brunson, Ayo Edebiri, Elle Fanning, Lisa Kudrow, and Jean Smart. Supporting actor, comedy, you have Coleman Domingo, Paul W. Downs, Harrison Ford, Nick Offerman, Stephen Root, Michael Urie, Tyler James Williams. Outstanding supporting actress in comedy, Dale Dickey, Hannah Einbinder, Janelle James, Katie O'Flynn, Michelle Pfeiffer, Megan Stalter, Jessica Williams. Writing for comedy of Quinta Brunson for Abbott Elementary, Tim Robinson and Zach Kane, The Chair Company, Michael Patrick King and Lisa Kudrow, The Comeback, Lucia Aniello, Paul Downs, and Jen Statsky for Hacks, Anthony King for Jury Duty, Kate Dippold for Widow's Bay. Outstanding comedy series, you have Abbott Elementary, The Bear, Hacks, Margot's Got Money Troubles, Nobody Wants This, Only Murders in the Building, Shrinking, and Widow's Bay. I'm not going to do all the actors or actresses here. A lot of good people. Outstanding limited or anthology series, you have All Her Fault, The Beast in Me, Beef, DTA St. Louis, Love Story, John F. Kennedy and Carolyn Bassett. Outstanding reality competition, you have Dancing with the Stars, RuPaul, Survivor, Top Chef, and The Traitors. Variety series, you have The Daily Show, Jimmy Kimmel, Last Week Tonight, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and Saturday Night Live. Outstanding animated, you have Bob's Burgers, Rick and Morty, The Simpsons, Smiling Friends, South Park, Star Wars Visions. Oh, they finally added voiceover performance. Pamela Adlon for King of the Hill, Julie Andrews for Bridgerton, Hank Azaria for The Simpsons, Trey Parker for South Park, Matt Vogel for The Muppet Show, and Stephen Yeun for Invincible. Hell yeah. That's a solid one. But that's it for news. Let's wrap up the show with a review of Jackass Best and Last. And realistically, going into it, you know what you're getting into with a Jackass movie. There's no confusion, right? This serves more as both a send-off and a finale. Those are the same things. A retrospective and a send-off. Let me rephrase, right? The biggest thing is it's noticeable without major cast members. Just like the fourth movie was, Forever, without Bam and Ryan and some others. This is especially when you're doing a look back. The movie actually opens with the skit that got Johnny Knoxville Jackass to begin with, when he essentially shot himself with a revolver in the desert. That clip has been shown for the first time to the public. But when you're looking back at a franchise that's been around for over 25 years, and you are showing skits that never made it to air or didn't hit any of the films, and you don't show certain cast members that were always around, it's very noticeable. When, you're showing clips of new stuff, and you're not all of the newer cast members are involved, it's noticeable. Yeah, obviously Poopies and Zach are heavily involved, but you don't see a lot of Jasper or his dad Dark Shark or even Rachel Wolfson. Why bring them back if you're not going to show them? That was really weird. Or if they're not going to be involved in stunts. I fully expect a 5.5 to come out at some point, right? But some of the new stuff that we didn't get to see in some of the previous films, that was nice to see stuff that we'd never seen before, or see it from different angles. That was fun. They did feature a lot of stuff with Ryan Dunn, which fitting, given he's been gone for a long time now. It was nice to see new stuff with Bam that did not make it into Jackass Forever, even though Bam isn't really involved with the team anymore. And it was definitely a Steve-O and Chris Pontius movie for Best and Last, which is nice because sometimes Steve-O is too much in the background on some of the other ones. Yes, he's part of major stunts, but he's never been the focal point of the film. And it makes sense because Johnny can't really perform stunts anymore after his last major injury that happened during the production of Forever. But again, you know what you're getting into with Jackass, and I was laughing my ass off the entire movie. Even if they were a little more disgusting with this one. So I just wish it should have been longer. It was only an hour and a half, and I think we should have got more retrospective stuff from it. Especially since you can't really watch the original show on streaming right now as it's being fixed, because it was put out on streaming with edits and music that wasn't approved by John Knoxville and Jeff Tremaine and things like that. So again, it was good. It was really good because Forever, if I remember correctly, Forever, I liked it, but it was kind of a letdown. I think it's most definitely the last movie in Jackass. I definitely will agree with that. Was it the best? I don't know. The best is going to be either Jackass 2 or 3, in my opinion, realistically. But this movie was exactly what it needed to be. And I was happy for that. Even if there was a lot of Chris Pontius ASMR dick wagging. And a lot more shit in this. And when I say shit, I mean literal shit. So, we also saw a skit that was never aired when Johnny pretended to be an escaped convict that was supposed to air on the original show and never did. But it makes me want to watch all the Jackass movies this weekend. And I've always loved them. And I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Because, like I said, while it needed to be everything it needed to be, it was still lacking in some places. And I really don't need to speak about Jackass more than that. I think everybody knows what it is. And honestly, me trying to describe skits will not do it any justice. You need to watch it in some way, shape, or form. And it'll be good for you because you'll laugh your ass off like I did. That's it for Nixner News this week. Thank you guys for listening week in, week out. And don't forget to check out the website, follow us on socials, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.